Welcome back to the podcast, Ball Players Evolution. We've got a new episode here. This one I'm going to talk about my journey over about a 4 to 5 year span from when I was roughly a freshman in high school through each year all the way up until I got drafted. And so that's what it's going to be. I'm going to just give you my story and let you take from it what you think can help you. And the biggest thing I want to just explain is just the level of commitment that it does take, that if you want to play a sport, whether that's baseball or any other sport at the next level, you got to be doing something that's different than the rest of the pack. You can't be doing just the same routine that everyone does, show up to team practice and go through the motions. Even if you're working as hard as you can and you're just doing stuff that everyone else is doing, odds are you're probably not going to be where nobody else is at. And so I'll give you my story. I'll tell you what I did. I'll just let you take from it what you want. One thing I do want to mention before I get into this, I am going to be starting some mental coaching online. If you want one-on-one sessions with me, this is for any athlete, any sport. Reach out to me on Instagram or whatever it is, and I can talk to you about that as well. So for me, if we start up, we're going to start at my freshman year of high school. And so my freshman year of high school, I played on the freshman team. I didn't play varsity. Played outfield, had a good season. But what did I do that off season to get ready? And again, freshman year, I'm still 14, 15 years old. Definitely do not have it all figured out at this point. But did put the work in to have a successful season. And at that age, you have to be lifting weights. You have to be working out. You have to be working on your running speed, your hitting, your throwing. You can't just work on one thing or two things. I feel like that's where a lot of people get into trouble. They kind of work on the things they like to work on, but not the things that they need to work on in the off season. So starting out with the workouts, man, you guys got to be working out 5 days a week minimum to get your body faster and stronger. You get into the high school level, it's a different game. You've got to have a separator. And so strength and speed are the number 2 separators. If you don't have that, you're out of luck. You're just going to be in a bad spot, and you're always going to be getting beat by the other guy. And it's not even a talent thing. A lot of the times is the guy's just throwing harder than you. You can't catch up to it. Or, with the bat, you're not strong enough to get it out of the infield. Like, you've got to be able to separate yourself with strength and speed. And strength and speed take time to work on. That's just the reality of it. So in your off season, you got to be working out 5 days a week. You got to be lifting 5 days a week. And so again, kind of just back to the storytelling, I'll tell you what I did and what worked out for me. It was lifting 5 days a week, and that's every off season, not during the season. You're not going to be able to do that. And that's why it's so important in your off season to absolutely just hammer it. You got to go 3 times harder in your off season than you do during the season. Because in a high school season, you're 5 days a week. And so if you're 5 days a week with either a game or a practice, the most you can really do is maintenance workouts, which would mean realistically probably 2 days a week. Otherwise, you're going to be sore for your games, and then you're not going to be performing at your highest level in your games if that's the case. So back to the off season, it's 5 days a week of lifting is what I did. It was sprint work, getting faster, 2 to 3 days a week, usually 3. And for me as a baseball player, it was doing 60-yard dashes. I would do 10 60s. I would do them at about 80 or 90% speed so that I could maintain that for 10 sprints, as opposed to doing your first 5 at 100% and then your last 5 at 60% because you're already gassed. So something that was sustainable throughout 10 sprints. It was 4 or 5 days a week of hitting. For me as an outfielder, like, the main thing I had to make sure I was doing was being a good outfielder, having good speed and range, being able to catch a fly ball, but I got to be able to hit. And if I can hit and I can get on base, now I can use my speed and steal bases. And so you're not going to be able to be a good base stealer if you don't get on base. And again, that comes back to being a good hitter. So it was 4 or 5 days of hitting. It was about 2 or 3 days a week of fielding and throwing. Definitely more throwing than fielding to keep improving my arm strength, because that's going to take more time, more reps to be able to gain velocity. If you want to be able to throw harder, you got to throw the ball more often. So many times get the question of, like, how do I improve arm speed? Well, you first have to throw. You got to be throwing a lot. You got to be doing long toss. There's other things too. I do think for me, lifting and taking care of my arm through resistance band training and doing a proper arm care routine, taking care of the rotator cuff and the shoulder, getting your proper internal and external rotations with your band, stuff like that, to make sure your arm is for one, it can avoid injury, and so it can maintain a whole season of 60, 80 games or whatever it is when you include everything that you're doing, but also helping the velocity. And so, again, for the workout, if you just kind of summarizing that, it's 5 days a week lifting, it's 3 days a week sprints, it's 4 to 5 days a week hitting, and 2 or 3 with fielding and throwing primarily. Now, outside of that, that's just the physical stuff I would do. I would be reading every night, 20 minutes at a minimum, whether that be books that I had been reading to improve my mental game, videos that I would watch, 20 minutes every night before bed. Some nights would be an hour. And that was just something that I felt like was a huge separator in my game. It gave me confidence and also felt like I had that mental edge. It gave me everything I was looking for: the confidence, the preparedness, the feeling that I had put in everything I needed to put in to go out there and perform on the field. And that's why we're doing this podcast. So many people do not do that. I'm not here to tell you got to do what I did as far as that goes. I read every night, but you got to be doing something. And again, I'm just going to tell you what I did. I'm not trying to lay out a perfect blueprint, because I think the perfect blueprint is always constantly evolving if you're really doing it the right way. Meaning you do it one way for a month, 2 months, you see what you like from it, and then you change it up a little bit to make it better. You evolve it. You spend more time on it sometimes, but sometimes you just have to spend the same amount of time but do it better, do it more efficiently. And so a couple examples, if I was watching a video that I didn't feel like was what I needed, I'm switching up the video. I'm not watching a whole video of something that's totally irrelevant. If it's a book that I'm reading, I feel like it's not really something that's going to help my game, I'm going to a different book. But most of the time, once I got into the things that I was reading, I think those were the things I had to finish. A couple books, really good books that everybody should at least check out. Mind Gym is one that I read that really helped me out. The Mental Game of Baseball. It's a longer one. That one, I actually didn't even finish that one, but there's a ton of stuff in that one that was very good. I read a couple different books on Kobe Bryant. He was a big one for me, like big inspiration. Just gave me things in different mindsets that I felt like really helped get my mind in the state that I wanted it to be. Helped me kind of transform into being more of a competitor, being more of an aggressive competitor. Having a warrior mentality, things along those lines. For him, it was the Mamba mentality. Kind of had this alter ego, and he really just, the things that I would learn from him were pretty crucial, and I definitely think I try to apply some of those lessons and tips in my game as well, as does anybody. And I think the ability to play the game loose, free, and aggressive is crucial in any sport. You have to be able to adopt that mindset. Loose, free, and aggressive. you got to always be in attack mode. And those are some of the things that I not only learned, but practice, meditated on, visualized, like routinely every night. And so I think there's different levels. Right? Like level 1 is understanding it. Do you understand that this is going to help you out playing this way? Level 2 is actually applying it and doing it, and that's a huge difference. A lot of people understand that but don't have the guts or ability to go do it in the game. And it's really just takes courage, right? That's all it takes. It just takes a decision, one decision to do it, and then another decision to do it a second time and a third. And then once you do it a couple times, now it becomes natural. You can do it every time, right? You can make that decision to take it to the next level, to be fearless on the field, to not care what other people are thinking about the way you play, or the things you do, the routines you do, the things you do pre-game to prepare yourself, the evaluations you make after the game to better yourself, things like that. And so the off season, again, just to wrap this all up now, the off season needs to be heavy on your training, your physical training, but also heavy on your mental training. And then the in season, the physical training kind of slows down, but actually the mental training might have to pick up. It definitely cannot die down, because that's one thing you can do year round, right? That's not something that's going to wear you out. That's something that's actually going to build you up. And so after a game, maybe after a bad game, you're going back to your notes, your books, your things that you had learned, how to handle failure. You're going back to all these resources and reminding yourself the things that you have acquired mentally to get back to, right? They're resources, they're tools to get back to when you need them the most, especially in times of failure, right, and challenges. Also can be really, really helpful too in times where you're succeeding, right? You got the hot hand, you're playing well, being able to still stay level-headed enough, focused enough to keep that going, to stay in that state of succeeding. For a baseball player, you're getting a couple hits each game. How do you stay in that rhythm? Again, any sport, a basketball player who's in a rhythm of scoring and, they're putting the ball in the basket consistently. Quarterback who's in a rhythm passing, right? They had 4, 5, 6 games with no interceptions and, a lot of passing yards. They're throwing touchdowns. They're moving the ball, right? In any sport, a golfer consistently squaring the ball up and hitting the ball straight consistently, having the right touch with their putts, their chips consistently, feeling the rhythm of the game, feeling that flow state of scoring well. So those are all really important things. For me, if I can go more into the storytelling, like my freshman year, I was doing most of these things in my off season, and I had a good season, but I still wasn't there yet, right? And that's the key too. It's like 1 year of doing it. That's not enough. It's really not. You've got to keep at it. And so I went into my sophomore year. I did the same things, but my sophomore year, I was no longer, a freshman playing freshman ball. I was a sophomore playing varsity ball, started out pretty good, started succeeding, and then middle of the season started kind of cooling off, started definitely facing some failure and facing some challenges. Wasn't hitting great. Went from batting maybe second in the lineup down to the 9 spot. And then by the end of the season, definitely was not, playing well. Finished batting 9 still. I think I finished batting probably like 280, which still was not too bad, but at the high school level wasn't great. And, then had to go into my next offseason thinking about how can I evolve? What do I have to break down and restart in my game right now? What do I have to do to get back on track? And again, it was continuing the same things I did to improve my physical strength, my mental strength, shifting my game plan to attack weaknesses that I need to work on, whether that be with my swing, hitting the ball better opposite field, having a better two-strike approach, being on time more, just being able to be more confident. Talked about in a previous episode how you need to overpay for the cost of success and the price of confidence. You got to overpay it. You can't just do enough, because everyone's doing enough. You show up to practice, you go through your 2-hour workout, and you show up at every team practice, you're doing enough. But doing enough is not enough if you want to get to where you want to go. If you want to be different, if you want to have a chance to play at a higher level than just high school ball, you've got to be able to tap into these little separators. So my junior year, again, I'm stacking each year too. So I'm having ups and downs throughout my career, but I'm stacking the same work each year. And that stacking of work, of doing it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, now all of a sudden that keeps getting better and better. And so you've got to be able to just withstand the ride, right? It's a roller coaster of ups and downs. But your work ethic cannot be the up and down. Your work ethic has to be the one consistent thing you do. That's the one thing you can control. Right, so take care of business with your work ethic, and you're going to be able to withstand the ride of ups and downs. The failures aren't going to be able to overcome you in the long run. And so for me, I had a really good junior year. I did the same things, but I had another year of experience under my belt. And so I think I batted .409 was my batting average. I think I just did better all around. Better fielder, better base stealer, better ball player, better complete player, more confident player. And so I also was a little stronger. I also was a little faster, right? Because why? I stacked up. Now I'm in year 3 of doing 5 days a week lifting, 3 days a week sprints, 4 or 5 days a week hitting, throwing, fielding, all of that. Reading, meditating, the mental game. Just think about how much stronger your mind would be if you did something for 20 minutes a night, but you did it for 3 years as opposed to just 6 months or 1 year. And so those things were stacking up. And that was the biggest thing I had going for me. So again, I want this to be kind of like storytelling. You just take what you like from what I'm saying, but if I could try to be really like adamant about one thing, it would be that. Right, your ability to keep stacking up when nobody else is stacking up at the level of consistency too, where it's given every drop you have over time, now it's a separator. I watched a video once on Kobe Bryant, and it was Kobe talking about his routine and his off season. I mean, it was ridiculous. He would wake up, 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning and do a 2-hour workout. And then he would take, a couple-hour break and then go back at it again for a 2-hour workout at 10 o'clock. And then, 2-hour workout to noon, take 2 hours off, then get back at it at, 2 or 3 p.m. And he would do this until the evening, where he would be getting in, I think he said 4 workouts a day. But he stacked that. He didn't just do that like every once in a while. He did that routinely every day. He said by, if I'm remembering correctly, something like, by season 4, 5, 6, he's so far ahead of everyone else, it doesn't matter what they do. They'll never be able to catch up. And that really stuck with me. By no means did I do that. I don't think anybody really can do that outside of there's probably a few guys that are doing it now at the pro level, maybe a LeBron James, Michael Jordan, or a Mike Trout, whoever, the top of the top, the elite of the elite in their sport are doing that. But back to the point, when you can stack that, how do you not be confident that you're going to go into your field or your court and just dominate? Right? Because you've done so much more than everybody else. And then, like this mental edge guys that we're talking about, like reading at night or watching some videos, and really I think a combination of the two is the best. of like real educated stuff too. I'm not just talking about like a pump up video. I'm talking about things and tools that can help you with your confidence, your focus, how to handle failure. I mean, that's probably the biggest one, right? How to be mentally tough, how to brush things off, have a quick memory, you know, the whole 9 yards, right? How to also, you know, be able to anticipate things, how to be able to see things that other people don't see, how to have perspectives that other people don't have, right? The resilience, you know, having those kinds of things. Having those kinds of things when nobody else is working on them or very few are working on them, that actually for me gave me the most confidence. Absolutely gave me the most confidence. You felt like you kind of had a secret weapon that nobody else had. That's just what it felt like for me. So if I go back now to my high school journey, I get into my senior year, I pretty much do it again, maybe even a little bit more, because this is my last year. This is my last chance to get drafted. At this point, I'm already committed to play baseball for Pitt. Got a scholarship to go there. And so, you know, I'm already set there. I very easily could have just, you know, cooled it off and said, hey, I'm going to play college ball. Like, this is one last senior year. I'm already committed. You know, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. But my mindset was that I wanted to get drafted. That was my ultimate goal. Like, I wasn't in it just to be a D1 athlete. Like, I wanted to get drafted, and not only get drafted, be a major leaguer. And so my senior year, my off season leading into my senior year was a full commitment. And it was a full commitment into my physical and probably a commitment times 3 into my mental, my spiritual, and just my inner being of everything. You know, being 100% all in. My visualization at night was going up. I was committing way more to that. You know, just getting that feeling deep in your bones that you're going to start to manifest the things that you're working towards. You know, you're getting that much closer towards it. You know, you can start to smell it. You can start to taste it. And so with that comes pressure at times, at least in the situation that I was in. So I had pro scouts coming to every game, and you know, that definitely brought pressure in the beginning, but then actually turned into more confidence when I started to taste the success. I started to have some good games early on that season when I knew everything was on the line, meaning that a scout was watching every pitch that was thrown to me and really just evaluating every single thing I did. I mean, everything. From how I jogged on and off the field to how I threw in warm-ups to every pitch in my at-bat to every time the ball was hit to me and I touched the ball, you know, every single thing being evaluated, not only just from a performance side, but also like a technique side, like what you know, evaluating my technique and mechanics, my body language, my mannerisms, the communication I had with my teammates. And so that stuff's being evaluated. You know, if you want to play beyond high school, that stuff will be evaluated by a college or pro scout, no doubt about it. Any sport as well, any sport. And so once I had done the same things I had done the previous years, and even more so, in front of others watching, that for me just gave the ultimate confidence. So then I just stayed in that same. You know, I had that same momentum. I stayed in that same flow state where I was getting 2, 3, 4 hits every game. And so, long story short, I batted .583 was my average in my senior year. And then a week after I graduated high school, I got drafted in the 3rd round by the Diamondbacks in 2011. 3rd pick, 3rd round. And so that was then the moment where you see it all blossom. Right, like that one moment. There's a video I watched, and it was about a hibiscus tree. And this hibiscus tree, you know, it grows and it grows and it grows and it keeps going, and you don't see anything for however long it is, all season long. And then one day, just out of nowhere, the whole thing blooms, right? But it had been growing every day up until that point. It had been preparing for the moment of the bloom every day. And so, yeah, it bloomed in one day, but it bloomed in one day over the work put in every day. And that was, for me, an example of what had happened, through my baseball journey.